Ice Kid Man trying to keep it to the right-hand side, get the power on the best he can. You can see the corrections on the steering wheel. And a 14.6. Car number 69 across the line. It goes P2. Wow! But nobody was quick enough to beat Ice Kid Man today, who takes his second pole position of the season. And it's lights out and away we go in Mexico. It's many cars wide as we head into the first corner. Cookie holding on to P2 from TK, who's made a good start around the outside. Great start from the Ferrari. Hercules now looking to make up another place down the main straight, and this one looking like a slam dunk. Oh, and they made contact and a huge accident there. It's all looking pretty serene for TK so far. It's looking very good for a Ferrari victory today.
TK went on the medium tyres there. So
Hercules has a chance, but he needs to make hay while the sun shines on these soft tyres. As we go down the back straight, moves to the inside, and Hercules takes the lead in Mexico with 3 laps to go. And for the first time this season, Hercules wins the Mexican Grand Prix. Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to round 6 of the FRS Season 3 Division 5 Championship here. And we are in Sakhir in Bahrain this evening. I'm delighted to say that joining us once again after his week off last time out is your favourite Scottish person, McNugget.
Wow, I really couldn't have hoped for a better introduction than that, having a week off. I thank you very much for that kind and well thought out intro there, Harringzord.
I've been planning that one for at least 4 seconds.
Glad to be back under the lights, of course, of Sakhir, Bahrain. Last week there was a lot of action with some rain causing havoc all over the course. So we'll see what's going to happen this week.
Indeed, yeah. And of course, this still the division. We'll take a quick look at the Drivers' Championship now. There's still a division that has 2 drivers at the top who aren't here anymore, with King Bart and Tory needing to sort of be ignored. The championship picture sees TK in the de facto lead after his second place finish in Mexico. But the winner last time out, Hercules, suddenly staking a claim in this championship.
Definitely. And of course, good old Hummersep, the turtle, up there in de facto second place, proving that clean racing is the way to podiums.
Indeed, Hummersep had a tricky race last time out, though. Lost his wing on the first lap and just didn't really have a lot of pace. He qualified in 16th, I think, in Mexico last time out. So very much a race off. And Hummersep said this week he's feeling a little bit more confident about this one around not the streets of Bahrain, the corners, the turns of Bahrain, whatever the phrase I'm looking for is. Ice Kid Man still in the picture as well, and then there's a bit of a gap back to Mahoney, Roy Weller, Nordy, and so on. Those guys who are generally finishing sort of 5th to 7th a lot, but at the moment, the title picture looking like it's between TK Hummersep, Hercules, and Ice Kid Man. Would you agree?
Definitely. A lot of drivers, I think the consistency has been their downfall. Mahoney and Roy Weller, both drivers we've seen qualify fast or be up there in contention with points, and then through one issue or another, there's incidents or crashes that have cost them big points so far this season. So you never know if the boy Mahoney, Roy Weller, Canadian that can improve on the clean racing and keep the speed. They've still got time to catch up to TK and Hummersep, I'd say.
Indeed, McLaren beginning to get it together. Nordy with a podium last time out, and that can be seen by their move towards the teams at the top of the Constructors' Championship. It's still racing point, thanks to the contributions of Hercules, Oktoberhof, and of course Tory, while they were here. Racing Point with a fairly comfortable lead, actually, in the Constructors' Championship in Division 5 from Mercedes and Ferrari. Renault struggling for points since King Bart left, unfortunately for them. Dan Gilligan has qualified well, but generally found it a bit more difficult to make it the full race distance without an incident. And of course, Karner has flirted with the points positions on a couple of occasions, but not quite managed to get there.
Indeed. I'd also say the 2 Alpha Tauris of Cookie and Jock James, actually hoping for big things from them this weekend. So I was chatting to both of them, and both have been unfortunate in their driving. I know Jock James has yeeted it into a few corners unexpectedly. So I've been promised big things from both of them this weekend, so I would be seeing AlphaTauri, potential ones to watch out for this weekend.
Indeed, yeah. Cookie at the moment, very much. Well, I was going to say in F1 terms it would be Mr. Saturday, but here it's more Mr. 20 past 8. Because his qualifying has been very, very good. And unfortunately for him, his races have been subpar.
Yes.
Obviously, the points are handed out in the race, which is the issue.
That is. If Cookie could perform as he does in a qualifying lap over the following 29 laps, we would be seeing a far different lead. But unfortunately, he struggled with that as of yet. So hopefully, big things from him and Jock James. As mentioned as well, Kana has been up there and about the points, shows good speed, but for some reason, whether it's a bit of a commentator's curse, we'll see. Will Kana be able to deliver today?
Yes, I'm under strict instructions to not curse Kana.
So, of course, I'm going to be under strict instructions to curse Kana.
Well, I mean, the problem I have is that I, in theory, have to talk about the drivers at some point. If I was to curse none of them, I wouldn't be able to talk about any of them, and this would very quickly become a difficult job.
Exactly. And after all, you are the only one out of the two of us that actually knows anything about Formula 1.
In terms of the teams that might catch Racing Point, you got any thoughts on who might be able to do that? Who's best placed?
So far, I'd say out of Mercedes and Ferrari, there's been one driver of the pair that has been very consistent and fast. Now, by that I mean T-Keg and Hummersett. So I think it's potentially whoever out of the pair can get their drive on track could help lead their team to the Constructors' title. So whether it's Mahoney or Van on base, whoever out of those two I feel is the one that gets it connected better, will see their team push to the top of the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, Van on base with a season best, career best qualifying in Mexico, where out of nowhere stuck it on the front row. But then the race was a bit more difficult. There was a couple of incidents and ended up dropping back to, I think, a P7 finish in the end. But what both of the Ferrari guys are doing is bringing in consistent points every race. The Mercedes pair are a bit more, when they do get a finish, it tends to be a good finish, but they're also prone to weaker races as well.
Erratic, we might say.
Yes.
And that's what happens when you put a German and American together. It's efficient erraticness.
Efficient erraticness. Do I like that as a concept? Maybe.
When they are erratic, they are very erratic. They are very good at being erratic.
Okay, so what we will do now is, as always, we will take a look at the Bahrain International Circuit that the guys will be racing on this evening. And here it is. It is 5.4 kilometers long, 15 turns. I believe it is 6 to the left and 9 to the right, I've heard Crofty saying this week in the actual F1 testing. It's relatively quite flat, but there's a few tricky sections of the course that the guys need to look out for. And, of course, there's plenty of opportunities for things to go wrong if we miss breaking points. But the wall's less of an issue this evening than they have been in previous weeks. So we are ready to go. I've timed this absolutely perfectly, actually, with regards to getting into qualifying. So I'm going to pretend that I definitely meant that.
I was going to say, it's almost like you know what you're doing.
You would think by this point. You would hope by this point.
Just remember, T for telemetry.
T for telemetry. So, we are yet to see a car go out to the circuit. The guys have all completed their practice lap. But of course, in Bahrain, we race under the floodlights. The only night race, because Singapore's not on the calendar, and neither is Abu Dhabi, that goes from day to night as you go through that one. But we can see we've got one of the Red Bulls heading out, McLaren, and lots of cars making their way onto the circuit in this early part of the session. Hummersett, I mean, the stand-in replacement, Dan, last week, managed to absolutely nail his pole position prediction, so I'm going to have to ask you to do the same.
All right. Sugar. Notice how I didn't swear there. T-Keg. T-Keg is going to be pole.
You heard it here first, folks. T-Keg the call for pole position from...
And your own?
My own?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And what's your prediction going to be?
Who do I think? I'm going to go for Roy Weller today. I think Roy Weller is going to be quick.
Wow. Right, everybody, go and message Roy Weller right now and tell him it's Harringzord cursing him today and not me.
We saw. Well, to be fair, we've seen good qualifying. He was on the front row in
Last week when I wasn't here.
No, a couple of races ago in Baku, he was only outqualified by Dan Gilligan. And in fact, we can look at the drivers. 2 have taken pole position so far this season, as we see the drivers on their outlap of this Bahrain International Circuit. We've got 2 poles for Ice Kid Man, 2 poles for what is essentially the same Renault car, King Bart and his replacement Dan Gilligan, and Racing Point up there as well. So we'll see if Ice Kid Man can keep up his good form in qualifying.
Well, and it's really been on the track, like we were saying beforehand. Ice Kid Man has looked very fast in qualifying. Over the last couple of races, has struggled to get those into finishes.
Yeah, he had a couple of DNFs in a row. He had a slightly stronger race. He finished P4 in the end. His qualifying was good, but he did lack race pace. And a few of the guys who finished on the podium were able to come past him. We're just looking at Nordy now going on to a quick lap just up the road as Hercules, winner last time out in Mexico. And we'd not really seen it. We'd seen a few 6th places, a few 7th places from Hercules. And then all of a sudden, from a sort of upper mid part of the grid, produced a stellar race in Mexico City to come through the field and win that one.
Yeah, Hercules has always, I think we found Hercules has always had a lot of good race pace, but sometimes found themselves spinning out or getting in a few incidents that have overall hurt their final positions. But there's no doubt, and there's a lot of pace under that Racing Point of Hercules.
17 drivers here. We've got Dave Kay back in the Alfa Romeo, but we do not.
Flag already.
Yeah, I think that's just a car moving out of the way. We don't have Cookie this evening in the AlphaTauri, so we're down in AlphaTauri. We believe Obsidian has unfortunately had to drop out of the division due to real life commitments, and of course Dennis de Great has made it to 1 race so far this season in the second Williams, and Dan Gilligan's retired from the second session. We've got an incident there in the midfield section. Dan Gilligan has lost the car and will start at the back here. Has not set a time. We can see Iana 5 on a 26.6 is quickest so far. And we saw in Mexico a much better performance from Iana, who qualified all the way up in 4th place, I believe it was, having not qualified anywhere in the top 10 previously this season.
Indeed, and Hummersep just coming across the line now. We'll see if he'll be able to match any of those top times. Nope, just staying in 5th.
Look at that from Ice Kid Man, a 26.0 to go 6/10 faster than everybody else in the field so far. We've got Oktoberfoff on an outlap. TK has gone quickest now by a fraction of a second in the Ferrari. Obviously, everybody on the soft tyres, but it's, look at that, 16 thousandths of a second between TK and Ice Kid Man.
Can we just stop there so my prediction's right, yeah?
Jock James with a difficult lap there, 7 seconds off the pace. And I believe we got Van on base now at the back of the circuit in the second Ferrari.
We do, and Roy Weller on a fast lap here, but there's a lot of back markers for him to navigate, and he's had to ditch it. Unfortunately, Kana just blocked him off. This is coming round the 9th, 7th and 8th, so unfortunately Roy Weller's had to ditch this fastest lap.
Well, he is in P5, so it might have just been an in-lap, that one. We've currently got an order of TK, Ice Kid Man, Iana 5, Van on base, and Roy Weller, your top 5. Both McLarens very similar on pace this season, as we've seen for large parts of this season, it has to be said. The qualifying comparison between the two on the screen for you now, and it's 3-2 in Roy Weller's favour, but on average, only a couple of tenths separating the pair in Roy Weller's favour.
Yep, we've seen a lot of good pace here from the Ferraris and the Renaults. McLaren's at the moment with Mahoney and Hummersep slipping further behind. So we need to see a bit of an improvement in pace from them if they're going to have any sort of grid position here. But plenty of time.
Oktoberfoff has invalidated, so we can now look at Kana, who is the only driver about to come round to start a fast lap of this Bahrain International Circuit. So, of course, Connor guaranteed to out-qualify his teammate Dan Gilligan, who was unfortunately put the car in the wall on his first lap of the session, which is precisely not what you want to do.
Yeah, Dan Gilligan not having the greatest of luck since the drop down from, I believe it was Division 4.
No, he didn't drop down. Oktoberfoth dropped down. Dan Gilligan just subbed in. He
I thought Dan Gilligan was a drop down from a higher division at Baku.
No, Oktoberfoth was the one who dropped down from Division 4 on the Racing Point. But Dan Gilligan did join us then as well. So, involved with Connor here.
As we are just coming round to corner 10, we'll see if he takes this nice and clean. Yep, definitely.
Yeah, that was good. 9 and 10, difficult corner. It's very easy to take too much speed into that and just have a horrible time trying to get the car sorted out to get through the tight part of it, the second left-hander of turn 10, and onto the back straight with that DRS zone.
And then the most important thing is not to clip the curb here on 12, otherwise it will send you spinning.
The curb of doom at turn 12.
Yes.
As I've been referring to it all week. Here comes Connor. Down towards the final corner. This is technically turn 14 and turn 15, but let's be honest, turn 15 is just part of turn 14 and doesn't really count. Connor across the line for a 1:26 or 1:27.0, a second off the pace and into P10.
There we go.
So who's standing out for you at the moment? We got sort of 2x2 in the midfield.
We do. So obviously T-Keg showing big pace again, out-qualifying Ice Kid Man at the moment, who we do know had some real pace. Arif, big shout here. Arif showing, you know what I mean, that move from keyboard to wheel now seems to be paying off a bit more for him.
Yeah, I hadn't spotted that. Arif must have gone for another run earlier and has now gone P3 on a 26.4. Yep. Very good lap. We're just watching Ice Kid Man currently on an out lap, and we can take a look at the best qualifiers so far in this Division 5 season. And this is of those who competed in 3 or more races and are still in the division. And it's Ice Kid Man who does have the best average grid position from T-Keg and Cookie, who is of course not here today. But look out for those McLarens who have qualified well, even if they don't necessarily have the points haul to show for it.
Exactly. And we've got definitely a good, it seems to be some teams getting a bit of competition going in between them. I think definitely the speed of Knurdy and Roy Weller, in fact, pushing each other during races to improve. Especially with the delta you showed before just being 0.2 between the pair of them, showing some good speed there.
Here we go then, time to curse another driver with the onboard fast lap. So we're on board with Ice Kid Man. We normally see drivers invalidate once they go on board with them. Late on the brakes into turn 1. It's a little bit wide of the apex, but it shouldn't matter too much. You want to cut as much of that one as you can. And then it's another DRS zone as we come out of that first complex down towards turn 4. Now, you can take a lot of the sand on the outside here to make the line better. Ice Kid Man not really doing that. And very clean through there. Turn 5 and 6 here. 6 and 7 rather. Very easy to do exactly what he's done there and go wide. He didn't want to get too much on the curbs. And turn 8 there, the slowest corner on the circuit. Keeping it nice and tidy again. Now turn 9 and 10. As early as you can, you give up a bit in the early part of the corner so that you don't run too wide and lose all of the time down the following straight. DRS wide open again as we come down towards turn 11. You can see he wants to get this down into 4th gear and make the corner as shallow as he possibly can. Avoid the curb here at turn 12. This is the curb of doom. You hit that too hard, you will be facing the wrong way in a hurry. And then just finding the right line through turn 13. Quite difficult. Quite a late apex on that one. Back straight isn't the DRS zone. And Ice Kid Man appears to have aborted this lap. Continuing my theme of cursing drivers in the onboard lap. And Mahoney retires in the Mercedes. That looks like he's hit the curb of doom.
On 12, yep. Whilst all that was going on, following Ice Kid Man happily showed that pace under the bonnet. Hannah's taken current P3.
You can see the Mercedes facing the wrong way. But we're now looking at T-Keg. Evil Steel disqualified from the session for going the wrong way. I'm just getting that pop up now. Here comes T-Keg down towards the final corner. Looking to improve on that 1:26.0. Nope, going into the pit lane. So another driver failing to improve. Here comes Daft down into the final corner now. And out across the line. Daft currently in P13 on a 27.5. And that is a 31.8. But maybe has aborted that lap early. With the DRS open, suggested he's going to go for another run here. So we can stick with the Haas. Daft has generally outqualified his teammate Arif. Arif actually getting the better of him in Mexico, but before that, Daft had a considerable qualifying advantage over his Haas teammate. But he's got some work to do to keep that going. Hercules has currently gone third, but Arif quite a lot faster than Daft at this point in the session.
Indeed. Now, as we said, Arif, of course, was everybody's favourite keyboard driver and did make that move over his wheel a few weeks ago, it was now. So perhaps showing that they've been able to get a bit more pace out of that steering wheel and being able to show exactly how fast they could be going. But Daft, as you said, has been doing very well so far. So we'll see if they're able to get a bit more pace out of this lap into qualifying.
Look at the top three in the standings. It is T-Keg from Ice Kid Man from Hercules. It's the three championship contenders minus Hummerset currently in the top three in this qualifying session. That is exactly what you want. Jock James has gone up into P4. A very good lap from Jock James there at 26.3.
Just what I'd want to see from Jock James today. Big things expected from him as long as he doesn't yeet at turn 11, lap 11 rather, like he normally does.
Here comes Daft across the line, and that is a 27.1 to improve, but doesn't improve from his current position of P13. Arif currently on a fast lap, but looking like he's lost a little bit of time in the first sector, and he's down again in sector 2. So this one likely to be aborted for the Haas driver. Not going to improve here. So the driver on an outlap is Ice Kid Man. The other driver on an outlap is this man here, Oktoberfoff, who is actually yet to set a time with less than 5 minutes to go in this session.
Definitely, you don't want to be at the back of this grid when it comes to turn 1 and going up into turn 4. Trust me, I was there. There's a lot of congregation and you're not going to get any benefits. So Oktoberfoff really under some pressure here to get a time set and get himself up those positions.
Ice Kid Man just ahead on the circuit, so we'll keep an eye on the man currently in second position as he makes what will be his final attempt at pole position. He's picked an opportunity when the track's quiet as opposed to waiting until the very end of the session. But what going now does give him is the opportunity, if he gets this wrong, to bail out, go into the pits, put a different set of tyres on, and still have time to come out and go again.
Indeed. Now, he was, I think, 1/10 slower at the top there at the first sector. So we'll see if he's able to rein it back in for sector 2. Otherwise, potentially, you might see him doing just that, nipping into the pits, getting fresh tyres on and going out again.
He took a lot of curb in turn 10. We'll see if that proves to be effective as we come out of turn 12 to complete sector 2. The yellow flag just appears to be Karna struggling around turn 9, but Ice Kid Man does appear to have aborted this lap again. 1.2 seconds down.
Yep.
He's invalidated the lap now, and he will have the opportunity to go into the pit lane and have one more shot at this as we watch Van on base down the start-finish straight, beginning his lap.
And just in front of him, I believe Hummerset is on an outlap. So Hummerset will be looking to improve on that next time round. But Van on base indeed on board.
It wasn't the best turn 1, 2, and 3 that I've seen from anybody. We'll see what the time looks like as he comes out of turn 4 here. A little bit of a lock up there. And unclean as well, I would say, through turn 4 for Van on base. He's a couple of tenths down on his own personal best. So this one already looking like we're going to bail out of this pretty quickly. Oktoberfoff only managed to go P14 on his own lap. So
yeah, it looks like Van on base has just pulled out of this now already.
Yeah, he can. If he's fueled it enough, he can save up the curves again. You don't necessarily burn all the curves in that first sector of the track, so if he has got enough fuel to go again, he can have one more shot at this Van on base, but he will be behind the man second in the championship, who is this man here, Hummerset. Winner, of course, in Baku, but no points on the board in Mexico City, so wants an improvement here.
And a big shout out rather to Elliot, who's raided us with a party of 25. I believe Elliot coming from Division 3 race. I think he was covering that earlier on.
Indeed, thank you very much, Elliot, and welcome along to the business end of this Division 5 qualifying session. Currently, the championship contenders, T-Keg, Ice Kid Man, and Hercules are 1, 2, and 3. But Hummersep, who is the fourth man in this fight, P11 as it stands, and look at the traffic ahead of him on the circuit right now.
There's a lot of traffic, so let's just hope that they're either going fast enough or they do the decent thing and get out his way. This is not where you want to see a Ferrari in front. Oh, that was a late pull away there from Iana, I think, maybe, but it's definitely...
Yeah, compromised the line, and Hummersep's now invalidated that lap time. That's a disaster for the Mercedes driver. There was just so much traffic ahead of him.
Yep, I think you turn that straight down and you get across the qualifying line for one last go at qualification here. But yeah, it looked like one of the, I think it was one of the Aston, I'm trying to remember who it was. One of the
Alfa Romeos. Alfa
Romeos, that's the one I'm looking for. Alfa Romeos, which is unfortunately on the racing line, going through 4 and 5, which is such a fast section.
If you think it's bad this season, wait until F1 2021 when you've got 4 teams that begin with A, 2 that begin with Alpha, and all of them are blue.
No. Normally it's trying to remember which one's the red one.
So Hummersep, we'll see if he's able to go again, if he's got enough fuel in the car. The tyres won't be optimum, but he will want to improve on P11. Hercules is on the circuit. T-Keg has just started a lap, closely followed by Ice Kid Man, and Hummersep has had to pull into the pit lane. He will not improve on P11.
That's not what you want to see now. Arif coming round as well himself, 1.3 faster, coming through sector 2.1. It won't be enough to get him 4th place.
Oh, he's invalidated, coming out of 13. No, he just got a little bit wide. He was a 10th up on his previous best, was Arif, but we can go to the guys at the front, and T-Keg is up on his previous best time. Ice Kid Man just behind him. I can't see the time that he's put together, but these two essentially nose to tail in qualifying terms on the circuit. Who will come out on top? Can anyone break into the 1 minute 25s? And just ahead of them is Hercules.
Exactly, Hercules leading the way of the fast laps here. We'll see what this kind of train of top 5 qualifiers can pull off.
Do not go anywhere. This is going to be very, very close. Hercules up by a 10th. That might be enough to put him in the cat amongst the proverbial pigeons here as we come towards the end of this qualifying session. Hercules into the final corner now. T-Keg has gone wide. T-Keg has aborted his lap. Hercules across the line, and it is pole for the Racing Point, but Ice Kid Man has invalidated as well. Hercules on pole. Wow. Chuck James has invalidated. I don't know if anybody is going to be able to beat that time.
Roy Weller could be on for a fast one. We'll see here just as he's coming across. Not sure it's going to be just fast enough.
Nordy went 4th. Roy Weller comes across the line in P7, but it is Hercules, the winner in Mexico City, who is on pole here in Bahrain for Racing Point. A 25.8. Good enough to take pole position by just under 0.2 of a second. What a lap when it mattered most.
Apparently all you need to do is ask and ye shall receive. Harringzord there asking for a sub 126 and getting one with panache from Hercules there.
That was a fun qualifying session, and we've got the big hitters right where we want them, with the exception of Hummersep, who struggled in qualifying. But the thing with Hummersep is that he's not a hot lapper. He is not the man here lighting up the time and cheating qualifying. What you expect from Hummersep is come race day, if this kicks off and it's all carnage and there's safety cars, suddenly that Mercedes will appear in P4 and above. But he has to do it the hard way again.
Indeed, Hummersep probably going to be a bit disappointed with himself in that qualifying. But as you said, very much has the consistent pace to try and get up that kind of ladder of drivers ahead of him. Big qualification from Jock James as well. We've not seen him this high up before, so showing good pace there. Hercules pulling out the massive 125.8 is...
Indeed. Another pole position for Racing Point. Hercules on pole from T-Keg and Ice Kid Man.
Going into this first corner.
I think it's very poor timing. Can you hear me, McNaughton? I think I know what's happened here. If anything, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, good. So I've had a crash, which is unfortunate. Right. But I guess if we were going to have a crash, this was the best time for it to happen, I suppose.
Yeah, as long as we get there before qualifying 1. Otherwise, I would guess it'll be myself describing the action.
Well, the
And it will
formation
be-
lap will save the day here.
Indeed, because my commentary will be simply the car with 4 wheels is in front.
What I can do while we wait, so you've got something to look at, and I'm loading back into the game. We can have a look at this Bahrain circuit once again here in Sakir. And if you just refresh your stream, then we should be able to pick up the action ahead of this race.
Yep. And we have just got the cars going off on the formation lap. No issues at the moment. We potentially have one of the Renaults. Oh, no, they've joined. They've carried on now. Thought for a moment we might have had an issue there, but all cars have moved off the start line and just going through the qualification. Now, tyre strategy, Harringzord. We believe it is a possible one stop from a soft to hard or a medium to hard. What are your thoughts?
So, having just tried...
As I've said that, 2 cars have been disqualified. Kana and Evil Steel have been disqualified during the formation lap.
So they will just reset to the grid, so they will be able to race. We can have a look now, and apologies for the technical gremlin there, but thankfully we've got back just in time. Everyone outside the top 10 starting on the medium tyre. And what we can do now is take a look at the previous winners. This man, Hercules, the winner last time out in Mexico City, and looking to repeat the trick here in Bahrain.
We'll see what's out. Just as they're coming round turn 11, Hercules leading the way. Big trouble for Evil Steel and Kana here, do you feel, starting on the cold tyres? Does that really have much of an effect?
Possibly. What I was saying on the strategy front is I tried the 1-stop in Division 6, but all of the faster guys ahead of me did the 2-stop, and they swallowed me up. I did finish 5th. It is doable. It's not a lot of fun. You're kind of squirreling around a lot. We can have a look at in Division 5 here, the drivers who gained the most positions on the first lap, and Hummersep, the man leading that particular stat as we come round towards the grid. He's going to need to repeat the trick today from P13.
He will indeed, but he will have his teammate Mahoney in front of him on this grid setup as well. So you will have some pull. Now, it will just be a case of drivers really need to watch themselves here on this first corner. You'll see some going on the inside and trying to take the tight line and some going further out. It's all about just watching that contact and those braking. So you really hope that you're going to see some sensible driving here at the turn 1.
We're just lining up Dan Gilligan, the last car to come into position at the back of the grid. And we are ready to go here in Bahrain. It's lights out and away we go for the Bahrain Grand Prix in Division 5. And as we come down towards turn 1, Hercules looks to have it, but T-Keg on the inside, making the dive bomb into the first corner. Perhaps, no, there's a big incident there. One of the Haas is way too late on the brakes, and it is absolute disaster for the front runners.
And it's been spun off. Daft, I believe, was the Haas that was caused major damage. Ian has been spun off as well. There is chaos here. Hummersep on board is up to 9th.
Nordy is round in turn 4. He got up into 2nd position. And Ice Kid Man given a penalty. It has all gone wrong thanks to the Haas. Absolutely late on the brakes. And Dan Gilligan is out of this race.
T-Keg off wide as well, but rejoining into 7th.
We have a virtual safety car, I believe. We've got a full course yellow showing on the track map. And the driver's slowing down. I'm not getting a pop-up on the screen.
We've got both Renaults off by the looks. Oh, no, sorry, one of the safety cars, I believe, is in fact the Renault that I'm seeing.
Oh, it is a full safety car. I've not got the pop-up on my screen, but it's the full safety car out onto the circuit for Dan Gilligan's retirement. Well, pick the bones out of that.
Oh, Hummersep, big gains here himself. T-Keg, big losses. Hercules and Ice Kid Man holding well. So's Arif and Jock James. So it's been a massive jump and shift here. Canurdi, of course, we said contact there. It will be interesting to see the stewards review into this to see exactly what happened. We did see a Haas perhaps forget to brake going into turn 1.
Poor old Dan Gilligan's entire evening consisted of less than 2 laps of this circuit. Into the pits are some cars in the background, including Roy Weller. They are going to go to the hard tyre. No, they're going to go with the medium tyre for the Ferrari. of what I think is T-Keg. Roy Weller going to the medium as well. I wondered if they might have gone the hard and tried to run the whole race distance.
I would not do that. Having tried that myself, I would not be doing that. Having a look here, it does appear nose damage for the Haas of Daft. So potential that's what had to bring Roy Weller and co in. So we will see later on how that's going to affect them.
Unfortunately for Daft, it'll be a sheepish re-entry into the Division 5 channel after this race because, you know, he'll already be feeling bad about it. I'm not going to sit here and try to make him feel worse, but he has quite clearly missed his braking zone at turn 1, possibly just focused on a car ahead of him, but he's gone in far too deep. And, you know, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and suggest that it was an honest mistake, but it was a big mistake that has really shaken up this race and affected a lot of the guys right at the front.
Being honest as well, without having seen it, there may have been contact behind Daft that caused the extra speed. So,
yeah, we only get one look at it.
Yeah, we only get one chance to look at it, and, you know, without throwing anything out there yet, it'll be reviewed by the stewards. It could easily have been a car into the back of the Haas that caused such... I would hope that's what the cause was, because it was such an increase in speed compared to everybody else.
The penalty situation is as followed. Ice Kid Man has 5 seconds, which is not a corner cutting penalty. Well, it is, but it isn't. It was a corner cutting penalty for gaining a place by cutting a corner, which is one that I've not seen before. Now, what that means I don't know is whether he has to serve that penalty in the pit stop or whether he can potentially look to get that removed after the race.
He's going to have to pit anyway, and I believe the game makes you stay for the stop anyway.
From what I gather, 5-second penalties you tend to have to serve, 3-second penalties you don't, but I don't 100% know.
But then this penalty easily could have been for not giving a place back, which they didn't in time. In which case, tough luck.
The big loser in this scenario is this man here, the championship leader, T-Keg, down in P15.
After calling him for my number 1 on the podium and his fellow Roy Weller in front of him, let's say it's good to be back.
Division 5 to survive, not disappointing once again. And it's actually, if you look at Arif in P3 and Jock James in P4, that Alpha Tauri, as much as anybody, T-Keg has left the session. That looks like a disconnect.
Yes, I do see his connector going on and off, so hopefully that gets sorted out in time, because he has rejoined. Ideally for Jock James, we get past lap 11 for his Jeep speciality and he finishes a race.
Yeah, so I was just saying on Jock James is that if there's anyone on this grid that needs a clean race for some good points, it is Jock James. He has been a penalty magnet, and I would struggle to find another driver in FRS as a whole who has had more penalty points removed than Jock James, or more penalties, time penalties removed than Jock James. Because a lot of the penalties he's picked up haven't been his fault.
Indeed. Unlike some other drivers that have fully deserved their penalties.
Look at Oktoberfest, by the way, who qualified just inside the top 10 and is now up to P6. Homosep, of course, up to P7. And another driver who tends to do well when there's carnage kicking off, Dave Kay, running in the points in 8th place right now. But, of course, there is a long way to go.
So safety car is in this lap. Hercules. Now, I don't think we've seen one driver correct.
Oh, big collision, big collision. Oh. Homosep is facing the wrong way. And I don't know what happened there.
There's penalties flying through. Evil Steel, Dave K, all behind Homosep.
I don't know if somebody's run at the back of Homosep or if Homosep's run at the back of somebody else. I only sort of half caught it. But it's all kicking off again. Meanwhile, up at the front, Hercules has restarted this race, and Ice Kid Man is right behind him. He's got the jump as they go down towards turn 1. The Williams right in the slipstream of the Racing Point and pulling to the inside now as they go into turn 1. Ice Kid Man takes the lead in Bahrain.
But has went wide, so Hercules will have the DRS. I don't think they start with DRS, after the safety car, but Hercules will have the slipstream.
Yeah, Ice Kid Man trying to break the toe into turn 4, but Ice Kid Man has the lead in the Williams. He got the jump on the restart and has moved up into first position. And now the question will be asked about that penalty. What happens? And look, there's been a big incident towards the back. Mahoney is struggling with Roy Weller coming up the inside. And there's a big gap between Evil Steel in 8th place. We see 3 cars here. TK getting involved and getting past Roy Weller. But there's a huge gap between Connor in P7 and Evil Steel in 8th position. And that was around the point of the field where the incident kicked off with Hummersep. And
Hummersep was 7th behind October. And then all of a sudden was down in 15th. So you would imagine the carnage just came from behind Hummersep.
So Dave K's been into the pit lane, which would add more potential evidence to the fact that he's lost a front wing running into the back of the Mercedes, and that is what has punted him round. But again, we can only speculate on that, and Hummersep down in P14. Meanwhile, up at the front, Ice Kid Man leads from Hercules. Arif is 3rd. Jock James trying to keep pace in P4, and Van on Base has sort of dropped Oktoberhof at this stage of the race. As we come down towards turn 1, an actual racing lap completed for the first time.
Evil Steel in here at the moment with no front wing. Looks like there's going to be...
Oh, round at the last corner, Roy Weller. There's no wing damage, so it looks like he's lost it on his own. But Roy Weller losing time and ground now as T-Keg in the Ferrari comes up on the back of Mahoney here. I think Jock James has possibly made a mistake in the midfield because Van on Base is right on his tail as they come into turn 8.
Yeah. The front 5 are still fairly close to each other, not too much of a difference in between them. So we're just going to hope for a couple of clean laps here just to get things settled down. Those on the soft tyres will have to think about coming in, which potentially puts Kana in a very strong position to try and stretch their legs a bit. Obviously right behind Oktoberhof, so the front 6 come in soon off those softs. Kana could get the chance to stretch their legs into first place.
T-Keg stuck between the Mercs at the moment and trying to recover on an alternate strategy now, having to pit on lap 1 in all of the incidents. We've got Kana right up behind Oktoberhof here, both. In fact, Kana on the medium tyres. And of the medium tyre runners, looking in they're in a good spot so far in that Renault. But Ice Kid Man continues to lead up front as DRS is now enabled. We've got a clip in chat of what happened to Hummersep if you want to catch up on that. Of course, we can't display it here.
It is indeed. It does look Dave K has not slowed down for the safety car and just yeeted Hummersep off there. So whether it was an instance of Dave K not realising the safety car was coming in and people slowing down or such, but it was not the best look.
Here comes T-Keg down the inside of Mahoney as they go into turn 4, and T-Keg getting that move done. The Mercedes, though, fighting back on the switcheroo as they come down towards 6, 7, and 8. And T-Keg frustrated and losing time here behind Mahoney's Mercedes with Hummersep just sat in behind.
Yeah, and the front 5 still stretching. Hercules still keeping close to Ice Kid Man. DRS is now enabled, so we'll see if Hercules is able to use that to their advantage. Coming around the top corner, going into the back stretch.
Hummersep getting involved in this fight. The Ferrari in a Mercedes sandwich here. But up at the front, as he was in Mexico, Hercules is looking menacing once again in that racing point.
He is indeed. He will have DRS here going into the front stretch on Ice Kid Man. We'll see if they can flip the rules round. Ice Kid Man moved across to the right-hand side very early. Now moving across to the left.
Ice Kid Man looking to break the toe, and he's achieved that on this lap. Hercules not able to get a good enough run on him.
Oh! Not enough braking from Hercules. Hercules did not look like they broke in time, and I think there's front wing damage. I can't get a good view.
There's end plate damage. There is end plate damage on the racing point. I'm not sure what happened there, but Hercules misjudging the braking entirely and losing a section of the front wing there, running straight into the back of the Williams. T-Keg is through into P10.
And Van on Base has to, Jock James, something happened. Arif has been overtaken by Jock James and Van on Base. Arif is off the track, that is why.
Yeah, Reef facing the wrong way, has spun coming out of turn 4 and is all the way down in 9th position now. Nordy is ahead of Viana 5 in the McLaren, and T-Keg has cleared the Mercs. Hummersep looks to have made a mistake on that previous lap and has dropped a couple of seconds back. But Ice Kid Man, obviously with the wing damage to Hercules, really stretching that lead now as they come down the back straight. It's all happening here, isn't it?
Who said Bahrain was going to be a quiet race, eh? And we've got Van on base sizing up Jock James here, who is, of course, is also sizing up Hercules with that front wing damage, just as Ice Kid Man stretches further and further away.
Will Hercules feel the need to pit? We will see. Van on base is looking very, very good, and almost a bit too late on the brakes there. There's a 3-second time penalty for Rihanna, but it looks like the Ferrari has the run. Hercules does pit just up the road. Here comes Van on base, overtaking Jock James as they come down towards turn 1, and the Ferrari moving up into second position now in this race.
And Oktoberfest still going strong. Oh, and Kana has very wildly missed that braking point and lost a lot of time there that they've gained. Kana going into turn 1, almost forgetting to brake entirely.
Hercules going to the hard tyre and having to adjust the strategy now, having taken the wing damage. With all that said and done, Ice Kid Man leads by 3.7 seconds from Van on base in the Ferrari. And it's all looking good for the Williams driver so far. But there is a long way to go.
We do have Jock James on the tail of Van on base. Jock James, of course, we're looking to go well. No penalties so far. Ice Kid Man, though, does have that penalty, indeed, 5 seconds, which we believe they'll have to serve in the pits regardless. And I'm not sure what the decision will that be removed later on in the race, or should it. But we'd be expecting them to come in soon. Lap 7 on these soft tyres. We'd be hoping they'd be coming in soon.
Yeah, if you're going for the 2-stop, you would pit around now, I think.
Yellow flag in sector 3.
Oh, Jock James!
Jock James!
Well, the soft tyres are going off, and Jock James has clearly made a mistake coming through turn 12. We've got a Reef off as well.
Yep.
And a Reef in a lot of trouble. Just rejoining the circuit now for Haas. These soft tyres are struggling, and at the front, Van on base pits.
As is in Oktoberfest and Jock James. A lot of cars coming in here now. Ice Kid Man staying out. Has to be careful they don't greed too much tyre here and end up spinning out as a result.
Arif, their tyres are totally gone. Arif was running P3. He's now running in, well, what is not quite last position, but he's going to have to pit for a new set of tyres. And we've now got Ice Kid Man, still out in the lead from Kana and Nordy. All of those drivers yet to stop.
Indeed, Dan Gilligan out of this issue, unfortunately. Ice Kid Man, as I said, is going to be really careful they don't cost themselves this first place.
Contacts between Roy Weller and Van on base. Van on base, of course, on the fresh tyres. Roy Weller on 6-lap old mediums. But what I was about to say is we got a split in the strategy between the Racing Points who've gone to the hard tyre. Van on base has gone to the medium tyre, as has Jock James. Now, the soft medium is very, very difficult to achieve.
Yes.
So does that imply a 2-stop strategy for some of those guys?
It's going to be interesting. Also, as you said, both Racing Points went hard. Jock James has went onto the medium. Van on base also on medium. We will need to wait and see. Ice Kid Man again staying out. I mean, this is becoming absurd.
Well, he's lost a second to Kana on this lap in the Renault. We'd expect to see Nordy coming at the pits now.
Yeah.
And Nordy does pit.
Ice Kid Man 2.9 seconds down on that lap. So the pace isn't there. We're going to see what happens here. You just hope Mahoney up into 4th.
Yeah, another driver losing a lot of time was Iana 5, who's pitted as well. These soft tyres are gone. And those who have stuck with the soft tyre are losing out to those on the medium tyres at this point.
Yeah, Ice Kid Man a second down in Sector 1. You really think they've got to come in this lap?
Now, of course, what we expect is that T-Keg is running a de facto medium-hard one-stop strategy here from the back of the field. So, Hercules is certainly... Because Hercules, in theory, doesn't have to pit again. The question will be, with Hercules having to run these tyres so long, will T-Keg have the speed to be able to pit for hards and then come out and catch up to Hercules later in the race? There'll be a lot of clips from this race. I do not doubt it. There'll be a lot to talk about after this race. But look at the time that Ice Kid Man's losing. Oh, and a mistake in the background from Oktoberfest. Or Hercules, in fact, that was. on the hard tyres coming out of turn 10. Ice Kid Man is losing so much time to Kana and pits now on lap 10.
Finally gets in the pit. Finally gets into the pit.
They suggest a
At least
one
it's
stop.
down. Yes.
But do they have enough time to Hercules in the racing point? Of course, we saw a mistake from Hercules there, but the undercut should be quite strong. Will the offset of the front wing damage be enough? Oh, when the penalty is being served, Ice Kid Man is serving the penalty now in race. Off the track is Evil Steel, and out of the race is Evil Steel, and that is looking like a full course yellow. Will the safety car be deployed here? Virtual safety car has been deployed, and that might give Ice Kid Man the lead of this race, de facto, because Hercules had to slow down to match the delta. Ice Kid Man is ahead, despite the penalty.
That is rough going if that is the case. Now, Evil Steel's car was on the track and then disappeared, so...
I think he's hit the wall. He was at the exit of turn 12. I think he's hit the inside wall and retired from the session.
Was on the middle of the track, so whether the fact that that's now gone means we won't get a full-on safety car, we'll need to wait and see.
Yeah, it's VSC with Kana leading this race from Renault. The first 6 drivers essentially haven't stopped, even though TK and Roy Weller have. So that means that Van on Base is now the net leader of this one. And Kana given a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. Oh no.
That is not what you want to see whatsoever.
So TK just behind is now going to take over the lead when Kana serves that drive-through penalty. And it's very hard to work out which way the strategy is going to go. Hercules has gained a position by corner cutting and has been given a 5-second penalty for it. But who did he pass?
Very interesting.
He passed Ice Kid Man. Ice Kid Man's made a mistake and gone off the circuit, and Hercules has been given a penalty because Ice Kid Man's lost a bunch of places here.
Now, I imagine that will be removed, as it's not a drive. Is that a drive-through penalty?
I didn't see what happened. We've got Oktoberfoth defending from Nordy just ahead of us up the road. This is another very difficult race to call in Division 5. We've got Ice Kid Man now getting involved in this fight, looking for the switchback on Oktoberfoth, and Nordy going right to the outside and getting the double overtake completed. With DRS as well to defend. All of these drivers with DRS, and Ice Kid Man and Nordy both getting past Oktoberfoth. No! Nordy running wide, but Oktoberfoth is off and passed by Jock James. It is all happening once again.
Where to look.
Now, TK and Kana are showing as P6 and P7. Why? Has Kana served the drive-through? Why is TK showing as P7?
Chaps.
Has TK had to serve a drive-through for speeding under the virtual safety car? Because they're still behind Kana with the Mercedes drivers leading and they haven't changed tyres.
Yes. Not a clue. Because Kana, you wouldn't have thought would have been in front of Ice Kid Man or Hercules had they made their pit.
Well, the good news, everybody, is that I have absolutely no idea who leads the Bahrain Grand Prix. But what I can confirm is that Van on Base on the fresh mediums is getting past Roy Weller around the outside into turn 1. And the Ferrari slightly off the circuit and not quite able to make it stick there. Both drivers keeping it clean. And Van on Base with the DRS can try again down into turn 4. Has the run on the McLaren. Will we dive? No, we don't. So losing time here behind the McLaren on 10-lap old mediums.
TK has overtaken. Yep. But Kana's going back on him at the inside.
Ice Kid Man and Hercules now fighting. And Ice Kid Man is through past the racing point. What does that mean? It's hard to say.
We now have Daft into third, which I didn't think we had either.
It must have been a drive-through for TK. I can think of no other explanation because he's on the same tyres. But he's got a penalty showing for corner cut, which won't be removed. We've currently got the Mercedes, who've made up 10 and 11 positions leading, but of course they haven't stopped in this race.
Yes. Now we do have Hercules on a corner cutting penalty, but we believe that that's a corner cutting penalty that led to an overtake, which we believe would be overtaken because we think it was Ice Kid Man's error that led to them getting overtaken.
Yeah, the stewards are going to need evidence on that one, and of course, from Harkley's point of view, he can get that penalty removed if he doesn't stop. If he does stop, he will have to serve it.
But is it because it's a corner cutting penalty, not a drive-through?
No, but it's a 5-second one. Ice Kid Man served the same penalty. Here comes Jock James, meanwhile, on Nordy as they go down towards turn 1, and Jock James moving up into 9th place.
We have leading Mahoney, Hummersett, followed by Roy Weller and Van on Basten and T-Keg. Interested to see what happens. When you're the McLarens here, how deep do you go on these medium tyres?
Well, probably not too much deep, but here comes Nordy on the inside, not quite making that move stick. Jock James running wide and getting a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting, which feels harsh when he was trying to avoid the dive-bombing McLaren. Yes. But what can you do?
Not be a penalty magnet like Jock James.
Ultimately, this is another Division 5 race where whoever crosses the line first, it's going to be very hard for me to call whether they're going to be the actual winner of this race. Here comes Van on base.
Van on base, yeah.
On Roy Weller. Knocking around the outside. Van on base losing so much time. Remember, this Ferrari is presumably running a 2-stop strategy here and going around the outside of turn 12 and making it stick. That is just pure tyre life.
Nice.
But if Van on base is going for the 2-stop strategy here, he has got to go quicker than this. He lost so much time behind Roy Weller.
I think here, if you're the McLarens, do you try to push it to lap 2021 and then come in for softs?
Medium soft, maybe. Connor deciding that we are pitting now, so that answers that. T-Keg on 12 lap old medium tyres, as is Roy Weller. The Mercedes at the front on 14 laps. And possibly goal hanging for a safety car here? Are they going medium soft?
They can't both pit at the same time either. So they're going to have to decide what they're doing. On Hummersett picked up, is that a fresh penalty for Hummersett?
Hummersett showing no 5 seconds of penalties for the safety car infringement, which of course, having not stopped, Hummersett will have to serve, regardless.
Yes. But I believe these penalties beforehand were removed post-race. Am I not correct in saying that it was one of your divisions that had a winner post-race elected by a safety car 5-second removal?
Well, Division 5 certainly has, yeah. There was the instance in Monza, which stripped T-Keg of the victory and awarded that one to Tory in the end. Kana just getting through ahead of Daft, both of these drivers on fresh, hard tyres and looking to go to the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix on those. Look at the gap that Ice Kid Man is pulling out to Hercules. Hercules is really struggling on these hard tyres.
Yeah, indeed. Or Ice Kid Man just has the bliss and pace regardless of what tyre they're on.
The driver who doesn't have as much pace as I think they need if they're planning to 2-stop is this man, Van on base, who is not dropping Roy Weller at all, despite being on considerably fresher medium tyres.
Now, whether it's just the fact that they've used up all their airs, just trying to get into that third place, you never know. Yellow flag inside.
Kana's out. Kana has retired, and it's another incident at turn 12. We look at Dave Kay, we might be able to see that. I think he's hit the curb of doom. You can see the wheel hanging off there.
That's got to be a safety car, surely, with the car on track.
No, we've managed to avoid one.
Car's disappeared. As I said, the car's just disappeared, so no safety car again.
Excellent work from the marshals, you have to say.
Indeed. But
here's Jock James, behind Nordy.
Turn of doom.
And Nordy on hard tyres, Jock James on mediums, and it's so hard to call whether these medium runners are planning to go to the end of this race or whether they are looking at 2-stop. Oh, and that was a poor turn 8 for Jock James. There's going to be a bit of a weird lag spike, but lost so much time to Nordy there. Falling back now towards Oktoberpop, who's gone wide in turn 10. No safety car for that one, was a surprise.
Indeed, and we still have... we still have both McLarens leading the race here.
Yeah, Mahoney from Hummersett, but both of these guys still needing to stop. Mahoney still not deciding that now is the time. This is looking like it's medium soft for Mercedes.
Yep, just carry on to about lap 2021 and then soft it for the finish.
Oh, it might be sooner than that. They might have to come in around 19. These mediums will be screaming. I know they've had safety car periods, which will help a bit. But these mediums will be screaming here for Mahoney and Hummersep. Currently 1 and 2 in this race.
Indeed. Perhaps hoping for maybe a cheeky safety car or something to help them cut down on the...
I think they are. I think they're goal hanging for a safety car and then what would be fresh soft tyres, because that would work out amazingly for them. And they'll be...
Exactly.
When they watch this back, they will be so frustrated that that corner incident did not produce a safety car in this race.
Indeed. Hercules really struggling now. Canurdu right up the backside of Hercules here, going wide on those hard tyres. Locking up as well, going into turn 8. So we'll see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, if Hercules was looking menacing on the soft tyre, he is looking anything but on the hard compound. And Nordy all over the back of the racing point.
Indeed. Again, imagine these McLarens are going to have to get their strategy sorted out. If you're Hummersep, the last thing you want is Mahoney coming on the lap that you need to.
Van Base right up behind the Mercedes rather than the McLaren of Hummersep now. Almost, but not quite.
And Van Base is catching Hummersep, so Mahoney stays out at least another lap, as is Hummersep.
Of course, Hummersep's Achilles heel here is that 5-second penalty. Into the pitch comes Roy Weller, the McLaren. TK in as well, just behind. Those guys now going to mediums again for the Ferrari, mediums again for the McLaren.
Van on the inside of Hummersep here on corner 2 and 3. There's contact, wheel to wheel.
Yeah, that looked clean enough. Van Base is through into second place, and Hummersep now really beginning to struggle on those medium tyres, as it looks like Roy Weller and TK are going to emerge in P11 and P12, opting for mediums instead of stopped, and a 3-second time penalty for Hummersep.
Yeah.
Who is just so lacking grip. We'll go on board and we can see just how difficult you'll find it to put the power on here. Off the track again. Look how much time he's losing that Ferrari.
I know, you're probably having to look at Mahoney here now though and saying you need to pit. Of course, we'll come out on softs. You're hoping probably going to come out in about 9th place, so you know they're going to need something to help them if they're going to stay in the points here, but I don't know how much legs these mediums have still got on them for either driver.
Mahoney is handling this very, very well out front. He's not losing a bucket load of time to Van Base in the same way as Hummersep was, and Mahoney looking very strong here. If he can push this far enough to go with a soft tyre, he could be flying through the field towards the end, especially against some of these guys on the hard tyre who will be struggling towards the end.
Indeed, and October 4th has picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings.
Hummersep pits.
Oh, and we've got Daft, is it, I think, facing the wrong way. Turn 12, corner of doom. There's not... he's not off. Hummersep, though. What's happened?
Yeah, so it's a 5-second penalty Hummersep has to serve. He got another 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And unfortunately for Mr. Consistent, that ain't it. Meanwhile, on track, TK right up behind Roy Weller on the start-finish straight. And moving to the inside, Hummersep will be coming out of the pit lane behind them far enough. And TK moves through past the McLaren into 9th place.
Indeed, indeed. Mahoney still staying out there though, showing the good pace.
Hummersep has gone to soft, so that's shown Mercedes' hand. We can see what Mahoney wants to do, but look at how that gap has been pegged at 3.7 seconds. Mahoney's tyre's twice as old as Van Base's, but still managing to hold that gap. Lost a couple of tenths there. But this is actually an impressive showing from Mahoney. We'll see if they're rewarded for this, because there's currently no time penalties on that Mercedes either. That looked a little less than ideal through turn 13, and we can see a few tenths now dropped to the Ferrari. I would expect that Mahoney will pit this lap from the lead.
Indeed, the problem's going to be the longer he waits to get. He's going to have to. Here he comes in now. Timing of these softs is going to need. He's going to need enough time to catch the hard tyres in front of him when he comes out here, but not go too far that those mediums explode now.
He'll be hoping to feed out ahead of the Alfa Romeo Viana 5 if he possibly can. The stop seemed good. There was no penalties to serve, and out on the soft tyres comes Mahoney's Mercedes. And if I was a betting man, I think he will clear that Alfa Romeo. It's just coming down the start-finish straight now. This will feel agonising for the Mercedes. It's going to be a close run thing. and the Alfa Romeo was wrong, is through. But importantly, Mahoney does clear TK, who's just set the fastest lap of the race. So, Van on Base leads from Ice Kid Man, Hercules, and Nordy. But of course, Van on Base on the mediums, older than Ice Kid Man's hard tyres. And both these guys looking to go to the end, I think, at this point.
And another man looking to do the same is probably Jock James on those mediums. We've seen Mahoney go about 19 laps on them. So can Jock James keep Oktoberhof behind him and hold these mediums to the end for a top 5 finish?
Very unfortunate race for Homicep, who's got another time penalty, pushing too hard on his fresh soft tyres. The important thing for Mahoney is he must clear that Alfa Romeo urgently, like this lap. He has to get this done, because the more time he loses now, the less he's going to be able to catch those ahead of him as he tries to push towards potentially a podium place here for Mercedes. This has to be done quickly.
He does look like he has the pace here, so we'll see how he takes corner 30 and powers it down the home stretch. But you would imagine he's going to get this comfortably here, if not on the home stretch. But he makes that move nice and simple here, as you said.
Yeah, Mahoney through. And oh, that Alpha nearly ran at the back of him, but we just about got away with it. Mahoney up into P7, and we'll set about trying to catch Oktoberhof and Jock James, who are about 6 seconds up the road.
Indeed.
Look behind as well. TK coming through, making the pass on Iona as they go into turn 1. Contact there between the Alfa Romeo and the Ferrari. And Iona holding that position for now. Is there damage to TK's Ferrari? No, it seems okay. But we'll have another go down into turn 4. On those fresher tyres, and TK this time makes that move stick and manages to prevent the switchback from the Alfa Romeo. Good pass in the end from the Ferrari. Meanwhile, Nordy is through. Nordy has passed Hercules. We're watching the other fight, and Nordy moves up into 3rd place again. The gap at the front between Van on Base and Ice Kid Man is 2.8 seconds, but will those medium tyres hold on?
And Mahoney already taking a second out of Oktoberhof. So Mahoney showing a lot of good pace here, kind of coming from nowhere on the qualification. Struggled a bit during the start of the race, but has really shown some good pace.
Yeah, Mahoney, has caught up 2 seconds on this lap already, and it's not even done on Oktoberhof. And Oktoberhof hasn't really fallen any further behind Jock James. That Mercedes is flying, and TK is trying to stick with him.
Van on Base has came into the pits.
Oh, he has pitted. He did need to pit. So now Ice Kid Man leads on the one-stop strategy. Ferrari have opted for the soft tyres here. Will Van on Base get out ahead of the Alfa Romeo? That's the key one again.
I don't think so. I think he's going to come out behind the Renault of Roy Weller.
Roy Weller getting past Iana 5, who dives back to the inside. Sort of half-hearted move there.
Oh, but clips the rear of Roy Weller.
Yeah, Van on Base out in P10. That'll be heartbreaking to have had to pit from the lead, but those medium tyres just weren't going to make it. And Mahoney now right up behind Oktoberhof as Ice Kid Man leads by 4.7 seconds.
Indeed, what I'd be shown though is Mahoney really seemed to get the best out of those mediums, took them to 19 laps. So you're looking potentially, can guys like Jock James hold on to the end? The drivers on the hard, you just imagine it's going to be, does Mahoney have enough time to catch them?
He's going to have so much more grip and so much more traction that he can probably just DRS past him here with enough use of the ERS button as well. On the inside, and Mahoney is through. Will Oktoberhof fight this? He's not really going to be able to. He's going to try and stick it out around the outside. But Mahoney will have so much more grip at 12. And it is up to what is a current season best P5 for the Mercedes of Mahoney's. No, he has actually finished 4th. I do apologise. Can he get on the podium?
That's the thing. Can he? Now, you'd imagine if he could catch Jock inside a couple of laps, he could perhaps catch Hercules, who he knows is losing. I don't really have the phenomenal speed he had before, so I think it's going to be down to Mahoney and how hard he can push this Mercedes.
Look at this. T-Keg down the inside, and they've got to be careful of not running at the back of Mahoney. T-Keg is looking to get through on Oktoberhof on much fresher tyres, of course. Didn't make it stick there, but can have another go as we come down the back straight towards turn 4. Will they go for the dive on the inside? Oh, it was half-hearted, and the Racing Point hangs on. Jock James currently in P4 for AlphaTauri. has got Mahoney and this entire battle right behind now.
Indeed. Mahoney does have to be sure. We remember Mahoney in Brazil, race 1, coming out into the last few laps, dodging bullets left, right and centre from the other cars behind him. So we'll hope that he stays away, but he's right behind Jock James.
Hercules is facing the wrong way and has dropped. Jock James moves up to P3 and Mahoney right behind. Hercules has lost the back of that racing point coming out of turn 10. Huge moment there, because that puts another car into this big fight. And we can see in the background that T-Keg is having a fight with both of the pink cars at once. It is all happening once again in Division 5. Hercules is struggling so badly on those hard tyres, and you can see Mahoney now looking to move ahead of Jock James and onto the podium for Mercedes.
And is that Mahoney almost going to come around? You imagine here he'll get him on the straight line and he'll take him easily enough for the slipstream, the DRS and the overtake. Both
racing points struggling. Van on base is through past Oktoberhof, also on fresh tyres. Mahoney to the inside of Jock James, and the AlphaTauri doesn't fight that one too hard. Mahoney safely through onto the podium. Has he got enough time? No, there's a corner cutting penalty.
Oh, and Hercules contact on him by Van on base. There's fighting going down the straight between 3 and 4.
Ferrari on the outside, racing point on the inside. Can the Ferrari stick it out all the way around the outside of turn 4? Looks like yes, that one was kept clean. And Ferrari now P5 and P6. But Mahoney, well, if he can make up what was 9 seconds to Nordy in second place, he has to make up another 3 seconds, picking up a time penalty completing that move. Look at this gaggle of cars here, with Oktoberhof at the back of it. It is a tight fight behind Jock James.
The only good thing for Mahoney is all cars behind him also have time penalties. Back to Van on base. So as long as he keeps up the current pace, he should be fine for that third place finish. But as we said, Mahoney's shown real pace and does have time to catch Knurdy up.
So what Van on base has is the safety net of definitely passing Jock James and T-Keg. As it stands, we see T-Keg get a good run on the AlphaTauri here as we come out of the back corner. Jock James seems to be really struggling out of 13 and losing time to those on the fresher tyres behind, and that looked like it was earlier on the brakes than T-Keg expected. And the Ferrari moving to the inside, easy pass coming up here for T-Keg as Jock James just tries to get to the end of the race.
Yeah, Jock James on 15 lap old mediums is going to be susceptible to getting caught by these fresher tyres, as you said.
Hercules losing now to Roy Weller. To go back to the point I was making, as Oktoberhof has run a bit wide. No, it's actually Yana 5 and Homicep fighting in the background here. The Alfa Romeo and the Mercedes. Of course, the Mercedes on much fresher tyres here. Homicep going to the outside and looking to make that stick. Yeah, got that wrong. Anyway, to go back to what I was saying on Van on base, he can definitely clear both of Jock James and T-Keg by kind of just staying within 3 seconds. If he can get within 3 seconds of Mahoney, there's a podium in this for the Ferrari driver, if he can avoid penalties as well. That's a lot of ifs.
Indeed. And Mahoney has shown he does have a lot of pace now. He's got about a second so far into Knurdy, but that's not going to be enough with the current amount of laps left. He's really going to have to put the foot down if he's going to chase down second place.
Now, Nordy is taking about a second out of Ice Kid Man up the front, despite being on older tyres, so you would suggest that's a mistake somewhere from the leader in the Williams. That gap just edging up a bit now. It's looking good for Ice Kid Man, who, while he's taken a couple of pole positions this season, he hasn't yet won a race in FRS Division 5, and he is so close to changing that.
Indeed. 3 laps to go for the first pole position and championship points. Sorry, first place of Ice Kid Man so far in the championship.
Oh, Van on base to the inside. It's a half-hearted move on Jock James. He's going to be punished here because round the outside goes Roy Weller. What a move from the McLaren. So opportunistic. But the Ferrari will fight back as they come down towards turn 4.
Roy Weller sizing up Jock James as well, so he has to be careful from behind here.
It was a little bit of a dive again from Van on base. He's on the inside going into turn 7 and 8, and the Ferrari is through. Just about clean. And now Hercules getting involved.
Jock James still holding on. We'll hope these two keep fighting each other to give him the chance to spread those legs.
Hercules fighting.
Stretch those legs up.
Hercules fighting and not quite getting the job done. There was a little bit of contact there, wasn't there, with Roy Weller. But Jock James the proverbial trolley train, as they used to call it in Formula 1, with a bunch of cars behind him. He's the cork in the bottle.
Yes, indeed. He does have penalties, which we think some might be removed. We're not sure yet. But, you know, finishing this place will be a big confidence boost to him after the last few races.
Now, Iana 5 currently running in the points. Hummersep has pitted again for Mercedes. Not sure why, but Hummersep now right to the back. Iana 5, 4 starts this season, yet to score a point. Currently runs P9 in this race with penalties, but might be able to stick this out and grab some first points of the season in that Alfa Romeo. We'll see if he can get the job done.
Up and Van on base. Oh, there's trouble at corner 1. Van on base, Roy Weller, Jock James, Harringzord and Iana. It looked like there was contact on Roy Weller on Van on base, who then ghosted to allow other cars through and block off Roy Weller. So a bit of naughtiness from the ghost there.
All of these drivers are on tyres that are just struggling so badly. And they're all over the place.
Jock James has got the rash on him called Iana 5 right now.
Wide again from Jock James. Those medium tyres, 17 laps old. They've got nothing left to give. He's tried a soft medium 1 stop. It is not working out, and another missed braking point from Jock James.
But he's still got the position, and Roy Weller sniffing about, trying to take an opportunity here again.
Roy Weller through on the inside, and Jock James loses out again. Those medium tyres are done, but he can't afford to pit. He wouldn't score any points if he pits in this race, so he's got to hang on. Ice Kid Man is just starting lap 28 of 29, so there's 2 laps to go for these guys. Plus a corner at Oktoberpop now with a time penalty that really helps Iana 5 to try and score those first points of the season. Wow, you can't take your eyes off this.
Mahoney not going to be catching that second spot up. Just has to make sure that he keeps enough of a gap ahead himself for keeping that 3rd place, which will be a phenomenal drive from him. Roy Weller sizing up Iana to go down the inside. Has overcooked it. Iana's cut in. Roy Weller taken by Jock James as well here.
Roy Weller got that one wrong.
Between October and Roy Weller.
I can't see it in the background. Yeah, they've both lost a bit of time there. Has there been any wing damage to the McLaren? There's none on the racing point. There's none there either.
There is none on McLaren.
Hummersep setting the fastest lap. No real surprise there. I was about to say that Nordy has taken another second out of Ice Kid Man. Is there a race on for the win here? If Ice Kid, the problem that Ice Kid Man's got is if he was to pick up a track limits penalty, he will lose this race.
Indeed. But he has to keep... He's 0.8 down this lap. Coming into Sector 3, so he's not showing that pace. So, you never know. You just need one more wiggle from Ice Kid Man and you could be well in there.
I mean, you can barely take your eyes off the action in the midfield, can you? We've got Oktoberpop on 18-lap-old hards. Roy Weller, who's on 9-lap-old mediums, though, those won't be feeling amazing right now, it has to be said. And it's almost like watching wet weather conditions. There's just so little grip. Jock James has made a mistake up ahead and pulls to one side to let both of those guys through into P8 and P9 respectively.
So we've got Roy Weller fighting with October for position 8. We've got Nerdy possibly catching Ice Kid Man on the last lap of the race. Roy Weller right behind Oktoberpop here.
Yeah, here comes the McLaren. These two have been neck and neck all the way through. Roy Weller not willing to dive quite so bravely this time. And we'll possibly try to get a good exit out of here and get the run down into turn 4. That's lost a little bit of time though, hasn't it? I'm not sure if we've got a lot of FRS. We might be able to do it. But Oktoberpop looking like we're going to hang on for now. And Jock James has pitted. Was there a puncture? I think there might have been a puncture if he's pitted. There must have been a puncture on the AlphaTauri, and it's going to be no points again for poor old Jock James. It just is not happening this season.
Indeed, indeed. And Roy Weller sniffing up the October again. Going down into 9th. Can they get this right? Can he time it right for the overtake?
We're going to have to cut away because about to pick up his first win in FRS. Been a common theme in Division 5. But out of the last corner comes Ice Kid Man for Williams, who wins in Bahrain from Nordy in second place for McLaren. Those two, the class of the field today. Ice Kid Man, the winner. For the first time this season, Mahoney on the podium for a season best result. And TK...
Roy Weller's out of fuel. Roy Weller's out of fuel by the looks of things. He's on low fuel mode.
Wow, well, I've not seen that yet.
Reef.
Look at Arif coming out of the final corner. Roy Weller struggling towards the line. The Haas are going to do it. No, there's contact between the pair. Arif
also not anticipating the low fuel.
He just didn't expect him to be going so slowly. But he gets the position anyway. Roy Weller comes across the line in P10. Well, just when you thought you'd seen it all, TK finishes in what is almost his customary P4 for Ferrari. Van on base 5th. It's a decent point haul for Ferrari. They've beaten Racing Point today, certainly. Hercules 6th. Iona 5 with some first points of the season. Big congratulations to the Irishman. Arif with a season best 8th, thanks to the penalties to Oktoberhof. So a decent recovery from Arif, who had that awful time when his soft tyres just ran out of life. Oktoberhof is 9th and Roy Weller 10th.
A forever changing top 10 it was there. It's hard to put into words, honestly, where the most action was. All the fighting for first place originally, and then that middle pack shuffle that went on for all 29 laps was just unbelievable.
What a race. I know that we round out the weekend with Division 5.
We try not to disappoint as well.
But wow, what a race. Driver of the day, Mahoney. I guess the question becomes, who becomes your driver of the day? I'll ask you in a moment. But we'll run down the final result as we see Ice Kid Man winning for Williams from Nordy with a season best result for Nordy, a season best result for Mahoney as well, who managed to make that medium soft strategy work. An absolute treat for Mercedes. Very, very good drive from all three of these guys, and all very much deserve their podium. But Ice Kid Man has deserved a win this season, and finally, at the 6th attempt, Ice Kid Man gets a win in FRS from Nordy for McLaren, Mahoney in 3rd for Mercedes. Ferrari 4th and 5th in the end. TK with a good recovery drive up to P4. Van on base 5th. Hercules struggled on the hard tyres but crawled home in P6 when it all kicked off around him. The Honor 5 with his first points of the season for Alfa Romeo. Arif improving and doubling his points tally again. It seems to be a theme. He's gone from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 points on the board. Oktoberhof is P9 for Racing Point, and Roy Weller rounding out the top 10 today. What a race.
Indeed, what a race indeed. Look at that. Top 3 all were on the one-stop strategy. Mahoney making up 8 places during that race where you didn't know what was going to happen. That was just everything. Again, Division 5 delivering the drama, the fighting for survival, and just the chaos that is Formula 1.
If you want, and I mean this with the greatest respect because there are some good drivers here. If you want the highest standard of racing and wheel-to-wheel contact, this maybe isn't your division. If you want entertainment, this is the place to be.
Exactly. This is where the fun happens. This is where the naughty list is made. And this is where you get myself and Harringzord just finishing off what is a great weekend of racing.
So there we go. Bahrain is done.
Rear left. Jock James saying the rear left just went on the end of lap 28. Jock, you were fighting all the way there.
If there is one guy who cannot buy a break this season, if he tried to pay money for a points finish, he couldn't do it.
No.
So unfortunate. But the soft medium was difficult to make work. Mahoney really the only driver able to make that work. And that was a very strong drive from the Mercedes. I can ask you now for your driver of the day.
My driver of the day is going to have to be Mahoney. Starting 11th, big pressure. His teammate, as I was saying beforehand, his teammate Hummerset bringing in a lot of the points recently. Mahoney struggling to deliver his side of the bargain. So I think that third place from Mahoney, showing great pace on the medium tyres and great control of the tyres, and then following that up with even more pace on the softs. For me, it's close because, as we said, Ice Kid Man finally getting that first place. But for the drive of the day, I'd have to give it to Mahoney. What about yourself, Harringzord?
That is a tough call, I have to say. I think that is a tough call. I would give it to Ice Kid Man because I think that was a serene drive. And remember that he served a 5-second penalty in the pit lane and still won that race. He was just better than everybody else today. I do actually believe that King Bart might keep P1 in the championship when all is said and done. Just based on those results. I will... yeah, I'll have to double check the figures on that. But it might be at the halfway point of the season. It's actually King Bart who is still leading this championship.
Well, we will have to see when we come back. But yeah, so Harringzord, you give me your driver of the day to Ice Kid Man, yes?
I'm going to go for Ice Kid Man today. Yeah, I think that was a very, 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 very impressive drive from the Williams. We're halfway through.
I know. God, another half to go. Do you think we can handle it?
Don't know if the heart rate can take it.
It's definitely a great way to end a Sunday. I'll tell you that.
You know you've got a Division 5 race when you get halfway through, and I just sit there and go, "Well, I haven't got a clue who's going to win this
Who's
race."
in first place? I was more when we were halfway through the race and we didn't have a clue who was in first place.
Just so much to dissect. If you are the stewards, have fun.
Yeah.
Ice Kid Man picking up 25 points. That actually being filled in live as we speak, that result. Tory does lose second place, but King Bart is still leading the championship by 5 points at the halfway stage of the season, having only competed in the first 3 races.
That's some going there. Now, as we're going into, I believe it's Austria next.
Yes.
We will see what's going to happen there. I believe there are a lot of similarities between Bahrain and Austria.
Well,
if we exclude where they are geographically, the weather, the sunshine, the kind of day that it is.
The thing with Austria is that it's a very short lap. There's only 10 corners.
Yes.
So it is so difficult to make up time on other people. So difficult to do it.
So it's going to come down to the drivers again to see where they can find these gaps. We know it's going to bring chaos, don't we?
We do indeed. Right, everybody, we are going to wrap that up there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, a big thank you to firstly Elliot for the raid, bringing in the viewers. A few Twitch subs today from some of the Blood Bowl guys as well. Says thank you very much for stopping by with a message I couldn't quite repeat during the stream, but I do appreciate it. Me and Sace have a thing where I keep drawing him into horrible divisions in Blood Bowl. And he hates me for it.
It's almost like you do to him what you do to everybody here when we drive. You curse him.
Something like that. I think D Sharp earlier in the stream as well dropped a sub, and there might have been one other. I do apologise if I have forgotten that you did that. I can possibly check, actually. Any final thoughts, McNaughton?
Heart goes out to Dan Gilligan again. I don't think he's been able to do more than about 5 laps without being taken out. You know, big performance by the Ferraris. Realistically, though, I can't wait for Austria to see this happen all over again. And hopefully, Jock will get some points, or at least a point.
There are a lot of potential overtaking zones in Austria. I think it is going to be spicy. We will see you there.
Indeed.